Let's talk quickly about speculation towards the next episode. There's not too many threads, I guess, from this. Obviously, the main thread, as I said, the main thing that's accomplished in this is that they are now debt free from Sid. So we could technically see them leave Sid and not come back. So not
I know you're quite excited about that possibility.
not that I don't want anybody thinking I dislike Sid or what she's brought to the show. I think she's a fun character and I think their dynamic is fun, but yeah, I'm ready to move on for this season. I think coming back to Sid in future would be, would be fun. But this, I'm ready to move on to the main meat of the plot. We only have 6 episodes left. There's so many things that have not been resolved. Obviously, we've got Cad Bane and Finnick, and Cad Bane still is actively pursuing Omega. We've got Lamassu and the Kaminoans versus, or Lamassu versus Nalase, and the Kaminoans really wanting Omega back. So there's going to be ultimately that fight for her, and I think that she's going to end up getting captured again and taken to Camino, and that's where we're gonna have the big explosive finale. So we have that. We have, as we said, the initial stages of the rebellion. More and more threads of that forming. We've still got Rex out there doing something. I don't think that's the last appearance of Rex for the season. I don't think he's going to be ever a big part of the show, but I think he's going to show back up at some point because they left it that way. We're like, hey, if you need us, you know where to find us. And if he had his helmet off, he would have probably winked at Hunter. So that, I think he's coming back at some point. So there's still a lot of things, and stormtroopers. We've ignored that plot thread for a long time with the stormtroopers and Admiral Rampart and Tarkin and all of that. So what could be in episode 11? There's still so much, and we didn't accomplish much from last week. So a lot of the speculation could be similar to what we said last week. But now that we've got all the trailer stuff out, or at least the original trailer and the original TV spots, it's all here in the first 10 episodes. So there's 6 blank slate episodes. Where are we going? Do you have any thoughts?
um, I don't think the next episode will be big. I think um, in any form of Star Wars media, if there's something big, especially shows and books and comics, there's something big that they're leading into, they'll drop a hint at the end. And there's no real hints in this episode. This was just more of a character, a character portrayal, a character expansion for the Bad Batch. Um, it's it's good to think that wow, there's so much more plot to go on. I think they've definitely built up a lot of things, but I don't know if we'll see the majority of it resolved. I think Crosshair could still be someone we see into like another season. I think he needs way more time to be explored. But I could also see him be dropped almost immediately as like that. Oh snap! He's the sacrificial pawn. In the end, while they saved Omega, they had to make a choice between him and Omega while they're on Camino or something, right? That could be really heartbreaking. I could see them having to kill him or do something if they can't stop it. I can see something with chips going wrong because of how modified his is now. I think the one big lingering interesting thread that I have still is the connection with Nalase and Fennec and what Fennec says to Omega. Nalase obviously wants her alive, but for what reason, right? Omega is still the prize. But Fennec almost seems like she knows a lot more than she's even explained. Um, and it's I find that quite interesting because I don't think Kaminoans would really be interested in sharing their secrets or anything, but it's interesting. And if she knows this information, and is it too much of a reach to consider that she knows even more than just the mission alone? Does she know about Boba? Does she have Nalase giving her contacts and information, or giving her access to technology that bounty hunters might find useful? There's a whole interesting angle with Nalase that I don't think we've really even touched on. I don't. think her whole priority is just making an enhanced clone anymore. If she really wanted to make an enhanced clone, she could have gotten Tanwi to bring her back, then promise to kill Omega, not actually kill Omega. There's a lot of ways you can like delay killing someone too. You could just be like, we need to keep her flesh alive longer to make sure the midichlorians are. There's a lot of different things that could be thrown out there. So I think the whole thing with Nala says and Fennec is going to be a big emphasis in these latter episodes. I think we'll get like a cameo of like Cad Bane again. I don't know if Cad Bane is so desperate to run right back into Fennec. He did lose. He's not really the type of guy who lets things go either, so he will be back. But it's clear that he's, again, as we've seen with the cybernetic patch, he's not the same bounty hunter. I know Fennec is very talented and skilled, but Prime Cad Bane was number 2 to Jango Fett. Jango Fett only lost to Mace Windu because his jetpack was disabled. He flies away, he's probably alive for much longer, right? He's not going to be targeted and beheaded by Mace Windu. Mace Windu doesn't have a grudge against him. We see Jango as probably the best fighter and bounty hunter in what is it? This era of the Clone Wars. That being said, I don't know if Cad Bane's story has to continue here. I think there's a lot of talk going on. Disney Plus is going to be putting out like small animated films. There's a lot of talk of the Clone Wars cast being brought back in the studio to record lines and stuff this past year. So I know people have been clamoring for adaptations of Dark Disciple and things like that. So would it be too much of a surprise to say that the next time we see him might be in the Boba Fett versus Cad Bane Tatooine training arc turned into a film? Maybe. I'd love to see him back. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know if the combination of just being a bounty hunter and not being his best and losing to Fennec would make him launch right back into it, because I think that's also stupid on his part. I don't think he's dumber. I think he's very much still the cunning, sly guy that we've known in the Clone Wars, but he's accomplished so much more before and gotten away with so much more as well. This was supposed to be a routine, basic bounty hunter mission that does pay him well, but that creative credits that he lost, it didn't look as big as what I would think someone of his reputation would be really going for. So I think he'll take his time. I really do. I mean, besides that, I feel like we have to get Rex. But do we see that clone Captain Ballast that has been leaked in minifigures and shown at not minifigures, shown in figurines and models for toy fairs as previews? I think that's the most likely choice of it being leaked so early to have it come out. But I don't know what they're gonna do. I think these rogue clones, for the most part, will just tease a bigger, grander story in the season 2. I think if there's a cameo and rescue of Omega, if she's stolen again, they'll bring the clones, get help from Rex. That's where we'll see them. And then split off again. Maybe Echo joins them for a little bit to help out with their mission. There's a lot of different angles I could see with the Bad Batch kind of spreading out a bit. But I'm not sure we're going to get a huge amount of plot other than like an Omega rescue mission. I don't think we're going to get much more clarity on anything but the cameo and need for Omega and some stuff with Crosshair, some stuff with the Bad Batch, but not much else. I personally, if I'm not pushing it too far, I'd like to see one of the Bad Batch die. I think that would add a lot more gravitas. It doesn't have to be the group that we follow now. It could be Crosshair, but I'd like to see someone permanently removed just to make this feel different than just, oh, this is Star Wars Rebels, but earlier. I'd like to see them lose. I don't want them to be characters that continue on and then they somehow appear again 40 years down the line. if they were, yeah, I don't know.
I think Crosshair is going to die. He's going to
Yeah.
die at some point. It's just whether they do it this season or not. I'm kind of with you there. I was so certain that the end of this show was going to be the Bad Batch taking out Crosshair. Like either he sacrifices himself somehow for them, or they try to save him and he dies, and it's some type of tragic death, because there's still an angle there, and I still think this is going to happen, but I don't know if it's going to be this season. I could see it all starting to unfold in the last 3 episodes of the season, and then we finish it off. I think at some point Omega is going to be recaptured. There's going to be an episode where it's going to be similar to last episode where we learned a lot about Omega. It's going to be an episode, but it's going to be the flip of where she's now with the Kaminoans and we're learning about her from them versus learning about just general information that apparently Tech knew all along and just didn't share with anybody.
Classic Tech. Classic
Classic
Tech.
Tech.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with her. I think episode maybe 14 she's captured again. 15 we learn a lot about her. 16 they go after her, and I think that's probably where Rex comes back in. Maybe he teams up with them. It's gonna be interesting to see how far they go with the Omega reveals and with the Crosshair death. I feel like Crosshair as a villain really should be resolved this season. Like, all the stakes that have been set up with him have been set up since the first episode. So if you're going to drag that out over 2 seasons, I think it loses a lot of its impact. I think we should start to evolve from a more singular villain to them, like a singular personal villain
Yeah.
to them as a group, to now like them being a part of the larger galaxy and the larger narrative of this world. Because as we've seen with so many Star Wars stories, it's always isolated, and then those characters become part of something bigger. And we've already started to see that with the Bad Batch, where they were able to kind of go off and hide because the regs don't care about them, and Tarkin doesn't care about clones anymore, so the Empire doesn't care about them, and it's mainly just the Kaminoans that care about them. And so we're getting to that point where they have become a part of something bigger because of Omega, and so they are going to find themselves into these more and more of these problems. So I think a lot of the more personal demons that they're dealing with Crosshair need to be resolved in this season. So I'd like to see that wrapped up. I do also agree. I think episode 11 is going to be another small mission. I'm hoping that it's at least like, okay, now that we're debt free, we need to go into hiding, and we are going to go off to this planet where that Rex recommended as a good place to hide, and then they encounter some monster or something they've got to fight and realize it's not a safe place to hide. It'll be very Star Wars Rebels. But then on the flip side, maybe we have Crosshair hunting them down and trying to track where they are, and we get a little bit more of that. And then I think Cad Bane's going to be back, because I also think Cad Bane I think the bounty hunter angle and Cad Bane is going to be done this season. I think the last episode will get a Boba reveal, and that maybe he's working with somebody like Fennec, because that'll tie into the Book of Boba Fett, as well as just be a cool teaser for the next season of the Bad Batch. And it could also be like at the end of the Book of Boba Fett, yeah, Boba references something he did in Bad Batch season 2. They could do that.
Yeah. I know people are like, not everything's got to be interconnected, but why not? It's so early that we've had such interconnection at the very beginning of Disney Star Wars, and then it kind of faltered a bit with Ryan Johnson being super tied in with the story group, and then J.J. Abrams not being tied in, and hearing more and more how he just kind of did his own thing with his films. And now we're getting back into Big War of the Bounty Hunters and Mandalorian as being this flagship of Star Wars. And Andor coming out, Kenobi coming out, Rangers of the New Republic, Ahsoka. Why not be interconnected? If you're gonna really get fans invested in streaming and feeling the need to branch out, why not? I mean, the War of the Bounty Hunters is supposed to have a freaking High Republic era bounty hunter come back. All right, that's awesome. That's fun. I'm not saying that they should be characters repeating themselves over and over again, but you can't be an old man like Boba is by the time of the New Republic and not feel a little sentimental about, hey, back when I was a kid, after I got arrested, all of this
Yeah,
happened to me,
yeah,
right? And this is a character that's definitely changed too. He goes from codes being kind of really sensitive as a kid, even though he is still a killer, then to being like, I am only here for the bounty. That's it. To now being like, I have a code. I'm a Mandalorian. Here's my chain code. Check this out. Right? There's plenty of reasons to go back to who you were before and bring that into who you are now. And I think Star Wars has this tendency of thinking that characters have to be the same year on year. So things like Luke Skywalker, 30 something years after uh, saving his father and helping defeat the Emperor, is not the great swashbuckling hero of old. That's the biggest issue with the sequels. You have to bring in the original trilogy characters, but they're 30 years older. People want their stories, but they're 30 years older. Do you know any 50-year-old person who's optimistic about life? Not really. You have people who are happy about their life, maybe, but not like, man, I'm going to accomplish so much. No, you've already done a lot of your life. It, yeah, so like these small moments being interconnected are great. And seeing how these characters change and reasons for changing is also great. I think people just get this tendency of thinking that characters are the same throughout. That's not a good story. That's not good storytelling, and that's not good character development. It's a little spiel there, but the more I hear people say, "Oh, things gotta," why is Ahsoka alive again? Why is it? Well, Ahsoka's not the same after being in that temple. Clearly not. We just haven't seen why to the full extent. She's not the same as she was at the beginning of the Clone Wars versus the end of the Clone Wars. She's definitely different in Rebels. As long as your character evolves and has a good purpose to the story, that's great. And is it really too much of a stretch to think a Force user would live years and years and after being trained by the legend that is Anakin Skywalker? Like, guys, she's one of the greatest. Let's get that very clear.
I'm completely with you. I think I've heard so many people over the years who have criticized just canon in general that say, "Oh, we don't need something that just has everything tied together." And it's like these characters like Boba Fett, characters like the Bad Batch, they're involved in something that's a lot bigger than themselves, and they can't just leave because it doesn't that makes so much less sense than them being a part of the formation of the rebellion or a part of the Mandalorian conflict or a part of any major bounty out there. Boba Fett's not going to go after a major bounty because he doesn't want to be a part of the main story. It's like that
Right.
doesn't make any sense. It,
Right.
it's a big galaxy out there, and I'm really all for new stories and new characters that take place in different time periods. And that's why I was very excited for Ryan Johnson's trilogy, because it was going to be new characters and set in a different time period and not have anything to do with this main story, which was going to be awesome. But if you're involving the Skywalkers or the Fets or the clones or any separatist or a senator or anything like that, they're going to be a part of this conflict because
Yeah.
that's what's happening in the
I know
galaxy.
people are like, the galaxy is not supposed to be small, but if you have a reputation in a huge billions of species galaxy, plenty of people are coming for you or after you. That's just how it is. That's just how it
Yeah,
is.
it's
Once you have a reputation that you're notable on several, let's go Dr. Evzan from freaking original trilogy first movie. In the comics, he pops up again. He's got a death sentence on 12 systems. Think quite a few people might know him or at least have heard of him, right? It's the same thing here. And yeah, I know it's wrong to think, in my mind at least, that Star Wars is becoming smaller when clearly so many things are coming out. But it's also wrong to consider that, you know, when you look at Legends, so much of Legends, especially from Return of the Jedi onwards, for 15, 20 years, they have kids, they have families, they have this, but it's Luke Skywalker who beats the Yuuzhan Vong. It's Leia who does this. It's the kids do not even become noticeable or like galaxy changing until their 30s, essentially. They're kids, sure, but then they're adults. Adults do quite a bit. The next generation always wants to do something. Luke Skywalker might be the grand swashbuckling master that we know him, but he's a human. He's not a species that lives for 300 years or 900 like Yoda. He's got a time. I know it's a little frustrating hearing it from all the time about like, oh, the High Republic does this, or Bad
Yeah.
Batch is connected. It's like, guys, if it's a good story and if it doesn't overdo things that you find tendencies with, and if you actually read/watch them, you'll actually appreciate it. There's a big difference.
I'm so with you. It's
Yeah.
it's just it doesn't make any sense for certain people, especially it's a galactic wide government, right? Like it's the empire we're talking about here. So if we're dealing with the empire, like people aren't just going to be able to leave. Like, where are they going to go? The empire is everywhere. You could go to the unknown regions. Well, now you got to deal with the Chiss ascendancy. So, or the
Right.
Grists.
Yeah.
So
It's
like
just
there's governments everywhere. If you're going to be involved in something, you're going to be part of one of the main stories because that is just how this universe works. So the only way to do it is to go into either far into the future and create your own thing, or far into the past and create your own
for your
thing,
own thing. Exactly.
or
Yeah.
or go off and create a new version of the galaxy that's beyond the unknown regions. Like that's the only way to do this, to not connect things. And obviously from a business perspective, it makes so much sense to tease every new show in your previous show. So
Right.
I think
And and teases don't mean like, oh, this is the sequel. This is the continuation story. It's like, nah, here's a character popping up. By the way, he's an intergalactic bounty hunter. He's got his
yeah,
own life. Oh, look, he's going for the throne.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll see Din probably, but is he going for the throne as well? No. Is that a continuation of Mando? No. It is Boba's story. This guys like it's
Yeah, I feel like they haven't
yeah.
they haven't done anything to create, like, if they bring in Din Djarin to the Bad Batch and show 11-year-old Din having a mission, okay, that might be a little bit over the top. But we get Boba Fett, who's obviously a clone and a part of this, and literally Omega's brother, because they're both unaltered clones. He makes a lot of sense in this. And then he also has a show coming up. They don't do these things by accident. They plan this stuff. And if the story, makes sense and you're into the story, I think Boba Fett's a guarantee for the show, at least in a cameo by the end. I'll do my Charles Barkley guarantee on that. Uh, I wish I had a button to press, but
Guarantee.
I absolutely think he's showing up at least by the last episode. And I don't
Right.
think he needs to be a major player in this. He doesn't have much of a role right now, but I think as we start to unveil the mystery of Omega, and as maybe he doesn't even know Omega exists, I think that would be something he would want to know is, wow, I'm one of the reasons I'm special. I'm now not the only person out there that's like this, and I've got a sister. So it's whether he wants to kill her, whether he wants to just figure out what she's all about.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's going to be a big tie, and there's no coincidence that Finnick becomes a major character and resurrected in, in The Mandalorian, teams up with Boba Fett as like we are buddies, and then shows up in this show and is going to be the co-star of the next show coming out. And so it's all tied together. I think Boba, I'll bet on that for the last episode, but I don't think earlier. And I think this next episode's going to be some type of side mission, but hopefully we get a little bit more of like Crosshair or somebody else who's off doing something else. Thanks so much for watching this segment of the Star Wars Lads podcast. If you enjoyed this content, please like the video by clicking the thumbs up button down below and subscribe to our channel for new Star Wars content every single week. If you want to watch our full discussion, click the video on the left. Or if you want to check out one of our other awesome videos, click the video on the right.